Welcome to Colorado Tech People, the podcast where we talk with the founders and leaders using technology to solve real-world problems. I am your host, Monisha Saldana. I'm joined by Eddie Connors, co-founder of Goodie Bag, a company working to reduce food waste by connecting surplus goods with consumers. We'll talk about the hard decisions behind building a mission-driven business, how technology enables impact at scale, and what it takes to turn purpose into a sustainable company. Eddie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Monisha, it's my privilege.
Well, let's dive in. First question for you. What was the problem Goodie Bag was created to solve?
Great question. Every great business has a big problem it's solving, so good place to start. Goodie Bag, as a marketplace, is addressing two problems on both sides. On the supplier side, there is a food waste problem. So here in the United States, 40% of food produced for human consumption ends up going to waste. And that happens across the entire supply chain. Where we are focusing right now is in food service. It's in retail. So restaurants, bakeries, grocers that have perfectly good perishable products that don't sell when they need to, that then go to waste. We're preventing that. We're solving that problem to prevent it from going to waste through connecting it to customers on our mobile app-based marketplace. And then on the consumer side, the problem that we're solving there is affordability, first and foremost. Most American consumers, over 80%, are looking for deals and discounts to inform their next meal. And I think most people can relate to the raising living costs that we're experiencing in the economy. Every day, people need food. It's a huge budget that they have for their discretionary income. And so the ability to save money on quality food is the problem that we're addressing on the consumer side. Goodie Bag, it's a mobile app-based marketplace, and we can connect people to perishable products from nearby retailers at extremely discounted prices for pickup.
Many people care about reducing waste, but fewer build companies around solving this problem. What gave you conviction that this could scale as a business?
Yeah, it's been validated in the market, which is a huge signal that there's business viability. So it's one thing to know that a problem exists, right, with food waste. We knew that. It's been quantified. There's estimations on the economic loss that's occurring from this food going to waste. And when there's a financial incentive to improve, that is typically a requirement for a business solution to be viable. And that obviously exists because of there being hundreds of billions of dollars going to waste from food. And then we had a frame of reference in the marketplace globally for this business model that was being very successful in Europe. And it very much de-risks the general model since it has been adopted at scale in other markets. And so we were able to see a huge gap in the United States for this surplus marketplace model that we saw an opportunity to fill and improve.
And have you identified a moat? Like what's to prevent the European business from coming into the US and eating your lunch? Sorry, I had to say that. But what is your moat? What protects your business against competition?
The network. So it's a great question and it's interesting. It's unique for marketplaces and for ours in particular, the market that we're in. Supply is the lifeline. It's the blood of the marketplace. So what that means is without Goodie Bags being available on the platform, there is no value being exchanged. And in order for us to ensure that there's Goodie Bags, there's supply on the platform, we need to deliver superior value to those businesses. And so where we focus and where we have built superior value is on the independent retailer who has needs that weren't being addressed by the European incumbent. And those were largely oriented around marketing and ease of use. And so we've built product features and functionalities that have better delivered that value. So we do things that are attracting new customers for these businesses that use our platform, that allow them to increase the overall revenue they generate through upselling within our application, and built functionality that allows them to get paid out sooner They can use the platform itself through their point of sale system if it's with one of our integrated point of sales. And so from a product engineering standpoint, we've built features and functionalities that are providing superior value. That itself is not a moat in today's age, right? With the AI engineering age that we're in, building features and functionality is not a moat. However, whoever can do it more effectively and can be quicker with iterating and innovating and implementing those features and functionality, that is where the moat is created, coupled with network effects. So there is no reason for a supplier to switch platforms if they are getting superior value from Goodie Bag, and that is compounding the value of our consumer network for the business. Because the more businesses, quality, and hyper-local businesses, the more popular businesses that are using Goodie Bag, that will translate to greater density of consumers using Goodie Bag because we have the more popular supply. And those networks create synergy so that the defensibility is essentially the hyper-local network that has been created. And so it's very easy for the product to be created. I'd say, easy might be an overstatement, but the product itself can be created. Anybody can recreate Airbnb, right? There's going to be challenges to get it to where it's functional at the scale that Airbnb is functional. But when it comes to how a marketplace remains defensible, it truly is in the network that they've created that is harder to replicate and acquire. And so we've been really intentional about building genuine relationships with the suppliers on our platform and with the customers that come into our community. And yeah, that's definitely where the emphasis and focus is for us.
That makes a lot of sense. And what were the hardest early decisions that you had to make when shaping the product and business model? Did you just copy what there was in Europe, or did you have to make some decisions?
Yeah, I would say one of the hardest decisions was to just begin building it without being technical. I went through the business school at CU Boulder and didn't formally study engineering or computer science. And so app creation was foreign to me. And so I think that decision was, in retrospect, a critical one that served us well to take action on, even though we've since had to rebuild the entire application from scratch. Going through that process of building an MVP that got us into market allowed us to start facilitating sales. I'd say that was a critical decision to make around the product and engineering. And then as far as like from there, we had a bare bones understanding of what the platform had to be able to accomplish in terms of the value. Surplus product needed to be communicated. Consumers needed to be able to purchase, receive that notification that it was available, purchase it, and be physically near it to pick it up. And so from the MVP, it became really a game of just listening to the feedback and the needs of the businesses and the consumers to then prioritize improvements and iterations from there that addressed the most frequently requested feedback.
And you said you had to rebuild the app. Why did you have to rebuild it?
Couldn't scale. It was having too many issues, load times, double payments. The infrastructure in which we built it on was not the ideal infrastructure. So we replaced our engineering team. So the MVP was built with an outsourced contract that was cost effective, got us in market, but ultimately, was not built on the tech stack that was ideal for us to take this nationwide. And so upon transitioning to who is now become our lead engineer and engineering team, it was, we switched to a different tech stack. We went into building on AWS's backend and a Flutter front end. And that was ultimately just the best decision for us to make at the time.
What are the biggest operational or logistical challenges in building a marketplace around surplus or unsold inventory?
The real-time nature of it. So you have a finite window from when you can make the sale, right? Some of our businesses will say, come get this in the next hour. And that's the window that we have not only to facilitate the sale, but also the pickup for that customer to be able to get there. So I'd say, the real-time nature of it and the unpredictability of supply. It's difficult. It's really challenging to maintain a retained customer base, to keep customers coming back if we aren't able to deliver a certain level of consistent supply for them to be able to purchase. So I think those two things are inherently difficult when it comes to building a surplus marketplace. And you can look at that lesson has been learned across the supply chain, like Misfit Markets or Imperfect Foods. Those are two companies that also pioneered this model in wholesale. So they would do wholesale to delivery, direct to consumer that way. I'm sure most people are familiar with it, where you can order foods that otherwise were not eligible to be sold at full price on grocery shelves. Misfit Markets and Imperfect Foods will source those, physically package them and ship them to your door. They ran into the challenge of consumers not wanting just the random stuff that they were getting. They wanted the staples, they wanted the milk and the eggs, they wanted that consistency, that predictability in order to have it become a habitual practice. And so they actually shifted their model to supplement the surplus with the fixed staples so that they could build a retained customer base. That's ultimately a similar learning that we've had in retail, where on both sides of the platform, there was a request for more consistency and variety. So businesses were coming to me saying, Eddie, I don't always have food I'm throwing out, but I would love the opportunity to use your platform to bring a new customer into my business as a local retailer who doesn't have a fat marketing budget that they're dropping on ads. And then the consumer would say, hey, Eddie, this is cool, but I don't always want baked goods. Like I want something I can eat as a meal, and I want more variety in what I'm able to purchase. And so that was extra layering that, since being in market, we added into our marketplace that allows for more consistency and variety for the consumer and for the retailer.
Earlier when we were talking about the network effect, you were talking about the importance of hyper-local. What are the markets that you're in, and have you seen any differences in consumer or retail behavior across the markets?
Yeah. So we started in Boulder. We spent essentially that year out of my co-founder's parents' basement, handing out cards to get our first couple hundred customers on, going door to door to all the businesses. We got into the Techstars Accelerator that summer of 2023. Came out of that and launched in Denver, and then in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina, and then Madison and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then we just launched New York City in April. And so that's a whole different beast of a market than compared to any of the other ones. As far as different behavior, I'd say we were genuinely surprised to see how many customers, the majority of our customers, being willing to drive to get their goodie bag. So it's not uncommon for goodie baggers to purchase their goodie bag and then plan a commute to pick it up through using a car, through using a vehicle. New York City has been very different in that regard, given the density of it and the nature of the city transportation not being friendly to cars and needing a more dense radius of suppliers near where the consumer is living in order for it to be considered viable. Whereas in Charlotte, for example, or in Charleston, seeing 15, 30-minute commutes for the goodie bag is not uncommon via car transport. So the overall radius of supply can be much more spread out than what we're noticing in New York City. But otherwise, there hasn't been much of a stark contrast in our go-to-market strategy across those markets.
And how has launching Goodie Bag in Colorado influenced your journey as a founder?
It's a great question. I mean, we've benefited tremendously from being integrated into the Colorado ecosystem. I mentioned I went to the Lead School of Business at CU Boulder. We went through the Techstars Accelerator, their Farm to Fork one based out of Minneapolis, but Techstars was founded in Boulder in 2007-ish. One of the co-founders of Techstars, David Brown, was actually an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship at CU Boulder, and he was like a mentor to us when we ideated. So Goodie Bag came out of a startup pitch competition at CU Boulder that my former college roommate and I attended after we graduated. It was that summer. So just the fact that they had that structure for us to go ideate, and it was very lightweight, but that's where we mustered up the idea and got enough validation on the market and conviction. And through that process, shout out Silicon Flatirons and the awesome people there who ran that, Brad Bernthal, who has since retired, and Sarah, great people. And what they would do is they'd bring in awesome mentors once a week when we met. And one of those mentors was David Brown, who has since become an informal advisor, and then now officially on our board of directors, and is an awesome mentor just through the nature of what he's seen transpire during his tenure at Techstars. He's filled with entrepreneurial experience. And so that's been a great resource for me personally as a CEO and for our company. Colorado also has introduced me to people that have since invested into Goodie Bag and has partnered with Goodie Bag. So one of our partners is Chiba Hut. 24 of their locations, or 18 in Colorado, are on Goodie Bag, and their owner, Kyle Archer, is an awesome dude. He's also come onto our board of directors. Colorado has definitely, in that regard, created rich relationships that have continued to serve us. We did have to go outside the state to find the aligned investors for our pre-seed round, which I would say is the one area in which we did not rely on Colorado for.
How do you attract talent to a company where impact is just as important as growth?
You let it be known that that's the case, that we're in business to create a better world. We're in business to find a path for how we can leverage capitalism as a means to scale positive change in society. And that is built into the DNA of the company. It's built into the DNA of the mission statement. It's why we've incorporated as a public benefit corporation. And it's what drives me as a co-founder and CEO. And just making that known and expressed allows for like-minded people to find the role and the position, and it allows for the universe to work in your favor. Whereas once it's an expressed intent, now all of a sudden the relationships in my life can help source the right person for the right role. That's how we found our now co-founder and COO Bree, who is actually, back to David Brown, a co-professor with David at the Lead School of Business, and she dropped her much higher paying full-time job, which wasn't the adjunct professor. She was working at a different tech company, to come in at the ground level with us because of the mission, because of the opportunity to create genuine impact. That is the advantage of being a mission-oriented company in today's world, is that people are yearning for purpose. People are yearning for no more delineation between work and life. If this is what you're dedicating your waking hours to, you want it to feel like it's part of your legacy, like it's part of the imprint that you're having. By us making that known, that that's part of Goodie Bag's ethos, it actually creates an advantage for us in hiring, because other companies don't allow for that to be true.
Cool. And what have you learned about scaling a marketplace business? It's a tough one.
Yes, it has its unique challenges for sure, Monisha. Yeah, I mean, so as I mentioned, like starting this out of college, I had a shorts company prior that was doing like athleisure wear from recycled ocean plastic and direct to consumer. Order on a Shopify, we'll ship it to you. Now being in the mobile app based hyperlocal marketplace, it's notoriously very difficult. And then add the layer of restaurant tech. Every business has its challenges, but this one has notoriously difficult challenges when it comes to onboarding independent retailers, independent restaurants, bakeries, cafes with technology, and then the nature of a hyperlocal marketplace and the need for active, engaged consumers in that density. There's so much that we could have the whole hour just talking about this topic. I think maybe high level, just some nuggets, is being really close, and this probably remains true irrespective of if the business is a marketplace, but being incredibly close to the feedback of the suppliers and buyers on the platform and ensuring that the value that they are receiving is felt, and if there's friction, that it's being identified. And I think also in this lesson has been just try different strategies and don't let hesitation delay learnings. Action needs to be taken in order for there to be learnings. And then building density to ultimately arrive at a place of replication is going to be key for marketplaces to truly know that you have retention on the supply side and retention on the consumer side. It's critical.
I love that. Action needs to be taken for there to be learnings. I think that's like a really good quote, actually. I'm writing that one down.
We can frame that.
Yeah. And what kind of impact have you seen on businesses that use Goodie Bag to reduce waste?
We've seen some over the course of a year have received over $12,000 in pure salvaging of product that would have gone to waste on a per location basis, which for a single unit restaurant or whatever the location type is, bagel shop, can be the difference between profitability and break even. And then the greater impact we see is when we then include the revenue lift from upsells, people that buy something else when they pick up their goodie bag, and the repeat revenue from the customers that were introduced to the brand through Goodie Bag. We've seen revenue lifts of $70,000 over the course of a year for a restaurant, again, through our platform, which is turning otherwise unsold inventory into revenue and a marketing tool. So it's been super cool to see it in that way. And it's also created an opportunity for a liberated chef, a liberated staff to be less concerned with overage, which has historically been a problem in spaces that operate based on PARs and operate based on pre-made products like bakeries, like bagel shops, like grab and go style, where they feel restricted in what they're able to create because of that fear of waste. And so having Goodie Bag as a really effective solution to that has allowed these businesses also to increase regular in-store revenue through ensuring that they have enough product for new customers or regular customers that are coming in. And if they want to try a new SKU, a new creation, they're less concerned with what if it doesn't sell because they have Goodie Bag.
That's great. So Goodie Bag can help encourage innovation in the food sector. What is your vision for Goodie Bag? What do you hope it becomes in the future, if all goes according to plan?
As it always does, Monisha, right? It's just whether it's our plan or whether it's God's plan. Sometimes they align. Yeah. The vision I have for Goodie Bag is to be a nationally adopted community that allows for the real-time sale of all unutilized inventory, hyper-local inventory. When we talk about food, there's such a great opportunity to have all independent retailers leveraging Goodie Bag to ensure none of their perfectly good food ever goes to waste, and at the same time allow for savings to occur on the consumer side and for discovery to occur on the consumer side. So that when someone says, hey, where should we go to eat today? The first place to check is Goodie Bag. Is there a Goodie Bag near me that I can go and pick up? Is there a new place on Goodie Bag that I can try at an entry-level price, at an exclusive price? And I think that is the base layer of where Goodie Bag can go. Goodie Bag can become the go-to platform where you go to find exclusive deals near you on food. And then it naturally, through having consumers that are hyper local in the community that are looking for real-time deals on inventory, in this case, food that otherwise would not have been sold, there's an opportunity for us to translate it across verticals for other inventory, other assets that are otherwise not getting utilized. We can be a bridge if they're consumer facing to make sure that they are utilized.
Fantastic. What a fantastic vision.
As an example, Monisha, there's like local plant shops that have hit us up. They're like, hey, like these plants, they're going to die. Like, I'd love to get them to someone. Like, can we put them on our platform? And we're like, we'd love that. Like, yes, let us just build the tech to allow that to come on. But yeah, there's other areas where there's a time sensitive opportunity to connect supply to demand.
Gosh, and flowers. I can imagine flowers as well. Great. And what is one book you recommend every builder read and why?
I think candidly, Monisha, for me, this journey has been a test of perseverance above all else. I think anybody who is considering or is in this game of being a founder, being a creator, building their own business, it's going to come down to a test of purpose and perseverance. And I think that conversation is often overlooked in the entrepreneurial community, where it's more hyper focused on the tactics and the tools to go from 0 to 1 and then from 1 to 100, which are great. I love all that. I'm a huge adopter of Claude Code and it's doing wonders in our internal workflows and all that good stuff. But I think if there's misalignment around purpose, it'll inherently lead to a breaking of persistence, of perseverance, because unless there is clear awareness on why you're doing what you're doing, there's going to be infinite reasons to quit and to stop. And ultimately, that's how a business fails, is that the founder quits. And so I would highly encourage people to find sources of inspiration that allow them to reflect on their why and on their purpose. And a book that has recently done that for me, which I have deeply enjoyed, is a trilogy called Conversations with God. And it's not religious in nature, but it explores our relationship to a higher power, and I think can be a source of inspiration for founders, and for that case, anyone.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for that recommendation. That's new for me. And thank you for joining me today, Eddie. It's been a great conversation.
My absolute pleasure, Monisha. Thank you for hosting me.
And thanks to our listeners for listening to this episode of Colorado Tech People. If you enjoyed this conversation about entrepreneurship and sustainability, consider sharing it with someone passionate about building businesses that create real impact. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear more conversations with the founders shaping Colorado's tech ecosystem. Until next time, keep building solutions that make a positive difference in the world.